Ladies and gentlemen, today, I want to talk about something we don't often say out loud. A woman of truth often has no friends. The reason a woman of truth often finds herself alone is because most people cannot handle truth. Understand this. Truth is brutal. Truth demands something from you. It doesn't pat you on the back and tell you you're fine just the way you are. It doesn't make you feel warm and comfortable. Truth drags you out of your comfort zone, kicks you into the cold, and forces you to look at yourself, not who you pretend to be, but who you really are. And that's why the world resists it. Most people would rather sit in a warm lie than stand in the cold, sharp light of truth. They would rather wrap themselves in delusions and fantasy and little stories they tell themselves to make the days pass easier. They would rather hear a lie that flatters them than a truth that challenges them. They want validation, not growth. Now, when a woman comes into this world with the courage to speak truth, real truth, unfiltered and unsoftened, she instantly becomes a threat. She becomes a mirror. And let me tell you something about mirrors. Most people don't want to see themselves clearly. They want to look at themselves through a fogged-up window where the flaws are hidden, where the weakness is blurred, where their failures can be excused away. A woman of truth wipes that fog away. She doesn't just reflect what's easy to look at. She reflects everything. The good, the bad, the shameful. She doesn't do it out of cruelty. She does it because she refuses to lie. She refuses to play the game that everyone else is so eager to play. And the second she does that, the second she holds up that mirror, people recoil. They get uncomfortable. They get angry. And slowly, they start to drift away. Friends who once praised her start to keep their distance. Family members who once admired her suddenly label her too intense, too much, too harsh. She hasn't changed. She's simply stopped sugarcoating the reality they were desperate to avoid. And so they leave. They turn their backs. They find easier company, people who will tell them what they want to hear, not what they need to hear. See, telling the truth, living the truth, it's a lonely path, but it's also the only path worth walking. Because everything else is fake. Everything else is built on lies. Relationships built on lies are fragile. Friendships built on lies are hollow. Entire lives built on lies crumble at the first sign of real pressure. Only truth has weight. Only truth has strength. And only those strong enough to carry it can survive. Most women society teaches should not carry truth. They're told to carry smiles instead, to carry politeness, to carry obedience, to carry the burden of making everyone else feel good about themselves, even if it means betraying what they know to be real. But the woman of truth rejects that. She doesn't carry the burden of making others comfortable. She carries the burden of reality itself. And that burden, heavy as it is, strips away the weak. It strips away the fake. It leaves her standing alone, but standing stronger than anyone else around her. Think about it. How many people would choose brutal honesty over sweet lies? Very few, because lies offer comfort. Lies make you feel like you're doing great when you're actually failing. Lies let you stay small, stay lazy, stay weak. Truth demands growth. Truth demands sacrifice. Truth demands change. And most people are simply not ready for that kind of responsibility. When a woman stands in her truth, she becomes a walking test. She forces every person around her to answer a silent question. Are you willing to confront reality, or do you want to run back into your little dream world? And almost all will choose to run. Not because she's wrong, but because she's right. And nothing is more painful to the weak than being faced with the truth of their own weakness. This loneliness she faces, it's not a curse, it's a badge of honor. It's proof that she's operating at a higher level. It's proof that she's unwilling to trade authenticity for approval. And in a world where everyone is desperate to be liked, desperate to fit in, desperate to be validated by strangers, that kind of independence is terrifying. It's rare. It's powerful. You have to understand, when you live by truth, you no longer move with the herd. You move with purpose. You move with clarity. You stop bending to the moods and opinions of the crowd. And the crowd, feeling powerless to change you, will resent you for it. They will talk about you behind your back. They will call you arrogant. They will say you've changed. They will say you think you're better than them. And you know what? They're right. You are better. Not in some shallow, egotistical way, but in the only way that matters. You are better because you are stronger. You are better because you refuse to be fake. You are better because you have chosen the path of truth, even when it costs you comfort, companionship, and convenience. A woman of truth walks alone, not because she is unworthy of friendship, but because true companionship, real respect, cannot be bought cheaply. It must be earned, and when it comes, it will come not from the many, but from the very few. The rare souls who have also chosen truth over lies, growth over comfort, strength over weakness. Until then, she walks alone, proud, unapologetic, unbreakable, and that's exactly how it should be. Another thing you need to understand is this: society doesn't actually reward honesty. It pretends to. It says it values truth, strength, integrity. But when someone really lives by those principles, when someone really speaks what needs to be said instead of what people want to hear, society punishes them, especially when it's a woman doing it. From a young age, women are told what they should be. Be sweet, be agreeable, smile more, don't be too aggressive, don't be too opinionated, fit into the mold, fit into the box, follow the script that's been handed to you. And if you dare step outside of that script, if you dare say something raw, something real, something uncomfortable, the system turns on you. When a woman dares to tell the truth, not just about herself, but about the world, she becomes a problem. She stops being likable. She stops being safe. People start labeling her. She's rude. She's too much. She's intimidating. Why? Because she refuses to play the game. She refuses to be the smiling doll that nods along and pretends everything is fine when it isn't. And the punishment comes fast. She's left out of conversations. She's pushed to the edge. People stop inviting her. They stop including her. They whisper behind her back. They throw little passive-aggressive comments at her, hoping she'll shrink, hoping she'll apologize for making them uncomfortable. They try to shame her into silence, because deep down, they know they can't control her. And if they can't control her, they fear her. This is how the system keeps most women in line, by teaching them that their value comes from being liked, that their worth is tied to their ability to make everyone around them feel good, even if it means lying, even if it means betraying themselves. A woman who chooses truth over likability threatens the entire structure. She's a reminder that there's another way to live, a freer way, a stronger way, and that terrifies people who have spent their whole lives bending and folding to please others. So what happens? She gets isolated. She finds herself standing alone. But here's the part they don't tell you: that isolation is not a sign that she's wrong. It's a sign that she's doing something right. It's a sign that she's rising above the noise, above the fake smiles, above the cowardice that most people call kindness. You think it's easy to be the one who speaks when everyone else stays silent? You think it's easy to be the one who calls out the hypocrisy, who points out the elephant in the room that everyone else is pretending not to see? It's not. It's brutal. It's lonely. But it's necessary. Because without people like that, without women like that, nothing would ever change. Lies would rule forever. Weakness would spread like a disease, and everyone would be too scared to even notice. People love to quote strong women when it's convenient. They love to post little quotes about empowerment, authenticity, and bravery. But when a real woman shows up living those words for real, not just posting about them on Instagram, but living them every day, every conversation, every choice, suddenly it's not so inspiring anymore. Suddenly it's uncomfortable. Suddenly it's a problem. That's the hypocrisy of the modern world. It celebrates strength in theory but punishes it in practice. It loves honesty when it's polished, edited, sugar-coated. Hates honesty when it's raw, when it exposes weakness, when it demands accountability. A woman of truth doesn't apologize for being real. She doesn't water herself down to be digestible. She doesn't smile and nod just to keep the peace. She says what needs to be said, even if it means losing fake friends, even if it means standing alone at the end of the night, looking out over a world that doesn't understand her yet. Because the truth is, weak people will always reject strong ones. Cowards will always resent the brave, and liars will always hate those who tell the truth. It's natural, it's predictable, and it's irrelevant. Their opinions, their judgments, their gossip, none of it matters. Because at the end of the day, when the lights go off and the noise dies down, the only thing that matters is this: did you stay true to yourself? Did you live with courage? Did you refuse to be a coward? The woman of truth already knows the answer, and she doesn't need a room full of approval to validate it. She carries her validation inside her. It's built into her character, into her choices, into the way she refuses to bow. No matter how much pressure the world puts on her to kneel, society will try to shame her into submission. They'll tell her she's wrong for being difficult. They'll call her names. They'll paint her as the villain. But none of that matters, because deep down, They know she's the one telling the truth. They know she's the one strong enough to say what they're all too scared to admit. They know that she's operating at a level of power they can't even imagine. And so she walks alone, not because she is lesser, but because she is greater, not because she is rejected, but because she refuses to accept mediocrity, not because she is unworthy, but because her worth cannot be measured by the opinions of the weak. And that's exactly how it should be. You need to understand something else about this path. When a woman chooses truth, when she chooses to live in a way that's raw, real, and unfiltered, she's signing up for a price most people aren't willing to pay. That price is isolation. That price is loneliness. That price is walking away from crowds that feel good but mean nothing. That price is walking alone more often than not. Integrity is expensive. It's supposed to be. If it were cheap, everyone would have it. If it were easy, everyone would be real. But look around. How many people are truly living by their principles? How many people are willing to stand by what they believe when it actually costs them something? Almost none. People sell out their integrity every day for pennies, for approval, for life, for a seat at the table with people who don't even respect them. They'll betray their own voice just to stay part of a group. They'll stay silent when they should speak, laugh when they should stand firm, nod along to things they know are wrong just to avoid being the one who disrupts the peace. But a woman of truth doesn't do that. She knows her value isn't found in being popular. It's found in being principled. She knows that standing alone with integrity is worth more than standing with a crowd built on lies. And that's why she often finds herself isolated. She's unwilling to compromise just to be liked. She's unwilling to bend just to fit into rooms where weakness is celebrated and truth is buried. She knows that once you sell out once, even a little, you'll keep selling out. You'll keep shaving down pieces of yourself to make others comfortable. You'll wake up one day surrounded by people who don't even know who you really are, because you traded your truth away one fake smile, one fake laugh at a time. It starts small. Someone says something out of line, something fake, something wrong. The room laughs. You know it's wrong, but you're tempted. It would be easier to just go along with it, wouldn't it? Just one little compromise. Just one moment of silence when you should speak. Just one time pretending you agree when you don't. But that's how the corrosion begins. That's how you lose yourself. The woman of truth refuses. Even when it would be easier to nod along. Even when it would be easier to smile and stay silent. She refuses. She speaks up. She walks away if she has to. She holds the line. And because of that, she walks a lonelier road. But she walks a road that's real. People will criticize her for it. They'll say she's too stubborn. They'll say she's too serious. They'll say she doesn't know how to just get along. And they're right. She doesn't. Because she's not here to just get along. She's not here to make mediocrity comfortable. She's here to live fully, powerfully, without apology. And if that means fewer invitations, fewer friends, fewer easy conversations where everyone pretends everything's fine while the whole house burns down, so be it. She would rather have the hard, lonely truth than the easy, crowded lie. Most people are terrified of being alone because they have no idea who they are without an audience. They need the noise. They need the constant reassurance. They need to be surrounded by others clapping for them. Because if they're left alone with their own thoughts, their own choices, their own character, they might have to admit they've been lying to themselves the whole time. But the woman of truth isn't afraid of that silence. She knows herself. She faces herself. She knows that the greatest companionship she can have is her own reflection. Clear and undistorted, knowing she never betrayed herself for anyone. There's a power in that kind of solitude most people will never understand. Most people are so desperate to be accepted that they chain themselves to lies just to feel less alone. But real freedom, real strength, real self-respect, it's built in those moments when you choose yourself. When you choose truth, even if it means sitting alone at a table no one else dares to approach. And here's what happens. When you choose to live like that, when you refuse to trade your integrity for company, your life gets cleaner, sharper, clearer. The noise falls away. The fake smiles disappear. The hollow conversations stop. And what's left is real, solid, unshakable. The woman of truth doesn't fill her life with quantity. She fills it with quality. She doesn't collect bodies around her just to feel busy. She waits, sometimes for a long time, for the right ones. For the rare few who aren't afraid of truth, who don't need lies to feel comfortable, who bring strength instead of weakness into her life. Until then, she's willing to walk alone. Not because she loves the loneliness, but because she respects herself too much to settle for anything less. She's willing to feel the sting of solitude rather than feel the numbness of compromise. She's willing to stand on her own rather than kneel with the crowd. That's why isolation is the price of integrity, and it's a price worth paying every single time. Because at the end of the day, a woman who can stand alone is a woman who cannot be controlled, cannot be manipulated, and cannot be broken. And that's exactly how it should be. A lot of people look at a woman who walks alone, and they assume she's broken. They assume she's lonely. They assume something is wrong with her because she doesn't have crowds around her. People constantly texting her, a whole circle ready to validate her at every moment. But that's because most people don't understand the difference between loneliness and strength. They don't understand that sometimes being alone isn't a weakness, it's a weapon. When a woman refuses to bow to lies, when she refuses to play the little games society expects her to play, she naturally filters out the weak. She clears out she pushes away the ones who only wanted her when she was easy to control, easy to manipulate, easy to mold into their idea of nice or agreeable. And what's left after that clearing? Sometimes nothing, sometimes no one. And that scares people. They think if you have no friends, you must be miserable. They think if you're not surrounded by others, you must be desperate for attention. But the woman of truth isn't desperate for anything. She isn't sitting around begging for scraps of validation. She isn't lowering her standards to feel busy or popular. She sits in the quiet, she stands in the solitude, and she grows stronger. Because strength isn't built when you're surrounded by comfort. It's built when you're tested. It's built when you face yourself alone, without distraction. It's built when you realize you don't need anyone's permission to be exactly who you are. You don't need applause. You don't need backup. You don't need a cheering squad. You are enough on your own. You are powerful on your own. Most people can't even sit alone with their own thoughts for 5 minutes without reaching for their phone, reaching for some distraction, something to numb the silence. Because deep down, they know they've built their lives on approval, not authenticity. They know they've been lying to themselves, lying to the world, just to stay comfortable. And the silence makes it impossible to ignore. But the woman of truth welcomes that silence. She uses it. She sharpens herself in it. She looks at herself clearly, her flaws, her failures, her strength, her victories, and she owns all of it. She doesn't pretend. She doesn't hide. She doesn't fake anything. She faces herself head on. And because of that, she becomes someone very few people are even capable of understanding. Most people think strength comes from being loud, being seen, being praised by everyone. But real strength is quiet. Real strength is invisible. It's in the way you carry yourself when no one's watching. It's in the way you stay true to yourself when no one is clapping for you. It's in the way you don't fold just because the road gets hard, just because the room gets empty. A woman who can walk alone is a woman who can walk anywhere. She's dangerous in the best possible way, because she doesn't need you. She doesn't need your approval. She doesn't need your fake loyalty. She doesn't need to fit into your little group. She's her own movement. She's her own army. And there's nothing more terrifying to a society built on control than someone who cannot be controlled. This world trains women to think their value comes from being wanted, from being chosen, from being surrounded. But the woman of truth rewrites that. She understands her value doesn't decrease because others are too weak to handle her. It increases because when you walk in truth, when you refuse to settle, when you choose strength over approval, you become rare, and rarity has value. Think about it. Diamonds are valuable because they're rare. Gold is valuable because it's rare. And truth, real, unfiltered, uncompromising truth, is the rarest thing of all. So why should a woman who lives by truth expect to be common, to be understood by everyone, to be celebrated by a world that fears what she represents? She doesn't. She knows that standing alone is not a punishment. It's a privilege. It's a sign that she's living at a level most people will never reach. It's a sign that she's choosing her soul over her status. It's a sign that she's operating in reality while everyone else is trapped in illusion. And even when the loneliness stings, and make no mistake, sometimes it does sting, she refuses to trade her integrity for company. She refuses to sell her soul just to feel accepted for a few hours by people who would disappear the second she needed them. She would rather build herself into a fortress than lean on a crumbling wall. She would rather be alone in truth than surrounded by lies. Because here's the truth,
Crowds are easy to find. Approval is easy to buy. You can be fake and make friends in an instant. You can say what people want to hear and gather a mob around you overnight. But none of it will be real. None of it will last. And when life gets hard, and it will, fake friends, fake support, fake love will vanish. Only truth survives the storm. The woman who builds herself in solitude, who sharpens herself in loneliness, who strengthens herself without needing constant validation. She survives anything. She doesn't crumble. She doesn't break. She doesn't panic when the world turns its back on her, because she never relied on the world to hold her up in the first place. That's real power. That's real freedom. And that's why loneliness for a woman of truth isn't a weakness. It's a badge of honor. It's proof she's living authentically in a world addicted to fakery. And that's exactly how it should be. Now here's the final thing you need to understand. When a woman chooses to live by truth, when she chooses strength over comfort, integrity over approval, she doesn't just change her life. She becomes a force that reshapes the lives of everyone around her, whether they like it or not. Because a woman who refuses to be fake, who refuses to bend, forces everyone else to look at themselves. Her presence alone is a mirror that shows the cowardice of the liar, the weakness of the pretenders, the emptiness of those who sold out their souls for cheap applause. Most people can't handle that kind of mirror. They'd rather shatter it than face what they see. But that's not her problem. She's not here to make people comfortable. She's not here to make people feel better about their mediocrity. She's here to embody something real, something strong, something timeless. And if that makes people uncomfortable, if that makes people angry, if that makes people try to tear her down, that's confirmation she's doing it right. You see, a woman living in truth becomes a living standard, a standard most people can't reach, because they refuse to pay the price for it. They haven't built the discipline. They haven't faced the solitude. They haven't sacrificed the fake approval they're addicted. So when they meet someone who embodies everything they know they could be but are too afraid to become, it stings. It makes them furious. Instead of rising up to meet her standard, they try to pull her down to theirs. They'll gossip. They'll spread rumor. They'll twist her words. They'll call her arrogant, cold, heartless. They'll throw every insult they can, not because she's wrong, but because she's right. And her very existence reminds them of everything they've compromised on. But she doesn't flinch. She doesn't crumble under their word. She doesn't shrink just because weak people are uncomfortable. She understands something they never will. The price of standing tall is standing alone, sometimes, and she would rather stand alone, at the top of the mountain, than sit in the crowd at the bottom, pretending she's happy in the mud. Every time she speaks her mind, every time she refuses to laugh at a lie, every time she walks away from a fake relationship, she's raising the bar. She's making it clear, this is what strength looks like. This is what real character looks like. This is what living in truth feels like. Raw, powerful, untouchable. And the people who have any strength left inside them, the ones who haven't completely sold their souls for comfort, they notice. Maybe they don't say it out loud. Maybe they don't admit it to anyone. But deep down, they feel it. They feel the difference between her and everyone else. They feel the weight of what she represents. And sometimes, not always but sometimes, she wakes something up inside them. A spark, a memory of the strength they used to have before they abandoned. A reminder of what it feels like to actually live, not just exist. And maybe, just maybe, seeing her walk the hard road without apology gives them the courage to start walking it too. That's the power of truth. It doesn't just protect you. It wakes up the people who are ready for it. It divides the weak from the strong. It separates the ones who talk about change from the ones who are willing to become change. But here's the brutal reality. Most won't wake up. Most will hate her for it. Most will cling even harder to their lies, their fake friendships, their empty lives. They will fight her, mock her, exile her, anything to avoid facing themselves. And that's fine. She doesn't need them. She doesn't live for their acceptance. She doesn't need the world's applause to know her worth. Her strength is self-generated. Her validation is internal. She lives by a code that doesn't change based on public opinion. And that's why she's unstoppable. In the end, truth wins. It always does. Lies are temporary. Weakness is temporary. Fake people, fake love, fake strength, all of it collapses eventually. But truth stands. Truth endures. Truth outlasts every storm, every betrayal, every attack. In the woman who builds her life on truth, no matter how lonely the journey gets, no matter how many people turn against her, knows that she's building something unbreakable, something eternal. She becomes the rarest kind of person, someone who doesn't just survive the world, but shapes it, someone who doesn't just get through life, but changes lives, someone whose strength isn't borrowed, whose courage isn't faked, whose power isn't dependent on anything outside herself. And while the crowds scream, while the cowards plot, while the weak pretend she doesn't matter, deep down, they all know the truth. They know that in a world built on lies, the woman of truth is the only one worth fearing, the only one worth respecting, the only one who truly stands for. And that's exactly how it should be.